recording from. That's what I like about going to Twitch.
And is that going to be broadcasting from the Livestream Universe Facebook page? I just want to.
It will be, on Facebook. It'll be the Livestream Universe Facebook page, and rossbrand.live will take you there if you're not on Facebook.
Mm-hmm. Sweet.
And so I'll be going on at 7:40. So I should just either hang out here, and you'll have me muted until then, or I can jump off. And
is that going to be? We're live right now to the world.
Yes, we are.
Yep.
Facebook. It'll be the Livestream Universe Facebook. It's pretty quick once you toggle it on.
Right, but I'm saying it's actually, if you go there, it's on there live right now.
Right. Right. That's what I was saying. I just turned it on like a minute or two ago. So
okay, cool.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Hello, world.
Yes. Hello, world.
Don't mind us.
And we're doing a little pre-show conversation. Thought we'd let you look in on it. Laura Davidson from Shure is here. Brian Wallace from NowSourcing. And Morgan Schwanke. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Schwanke, yeah.
Schwanke from Restream.io, which we are actually using to go to Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Periscope, Twitch, and Mixer, I believe. There'll be a test later.
Awesome.
Where are you located, Morgan?
San Francisco.
And did you say you have offices there, or you?
Yeah, I have an office. I'm working from home today, but we have an office in downtown San Francisco, and then we have one in Austin, Texas, and one in Kiev, Ukraine. Most of our team is in Kiev. That's where our founders are from.
Oh. Brian, you are in the Midwest.
Cincinnati, Ohio. We have two offices. We're in Louisville, Kentucky, and Cincinnati, Ohio, and most people know me as a New Yorker, which is correct, but I left the New York scene because I don't like overspending on my house and sitting in traffic all day. So, yeah.
Is that considered the Midwest or the Southeast, Louisville?
So Louisville is very close to the Mason-Dixon line. So it depends on who you ask. It's almost like the gateway to the South and the Midwest. And Cincinnati, which isn't that far from Louisville. So Ohio and Kentucky are only separated by the Ohio River. So you would think Kentucky is like totally the South, and you think Ohio is totally the Midwest, and they're actually neighbors. Cincinnati's airport is actually in northern Kentucky.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And then, Laura, you're on the East Coast, right?
Yes, I'm in Connecticut.
Okay. Are you going to Podcast Movement?
Yes, I am.
Excellent. We'll see you there.
Oh, yeah.
All right, guys, and everybody watching, we're going to start the show. We're also recording this for a podcast, so I will drop everybody down into the studio, and then we'll get started and bring on our guests.
Awesome.
All right, here we go. 3, 2, and 1. Hey, gang, Ross Brand here for livestreamuniverse.com. Welcome to Livestream Deals. This is the show where we feature products and services, courses, events, and more for live streamers, podcasters, and online content creators. We've got a great show today. We're going to talk about microphones and audio gear for live streaming and podcasting. We're going to talk about infographics and earned media, and we're also going to talk about multi-channel live streaming. Coming up a little later in the show, Morgan Schwanke from Restream.io, which we're actually using to go live on multiple platforms today. We are streaming to Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, Twitter, Twitch, and Mixer. And also we will talk to Brian Wallace from NowSourcing. He's the founder and president and expert in infographics, also a speaker. But first up, from the company that makes the microphone that I'm currently using and several other products that I love. It's one of those few companies in the audio video space that kind of just makes you get little butterflies in your stomach when you talk about them and have a certain reverence for them. and that is Shure. My guest is Laura Davidson. She's the lead retail market development specialist with expertise in professional audio. She's also a singer and songwriter and guitar player. She has a degree in music from Berklee College of Music. We met at Podfest Expo in Orlando, and she's just really knowledgeable about everything to do with recording and live streaming audio. Laura, it's so great to talk to you. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, so let's get started talking a little bit about Shure, just to let people know. Just tell us a little bit about the history and why it's a company that people go, "Oh, you're using a Shure microphone." Like, yeah, that's
Yes.
probably a good microphone.
Yes. Well, I appreciate you saying that. And when I took this job, I too had that same reverence and, just love for the brand from forever. So the reason why is because we've been around for 94 years. We're based in Niles, Illinois, so just outside of Chicago. So because we've been around that long, because we're an American company, because of the foundations of Mrs. Shure that live in our core values today, it trickles down to everything that we do. So we're very focused on keeping our technology at the forefront, but also just making sure that everything's rock solid, super durable, and sounds great and works great. So we've done that for 94 years, and we're still doing it today.
Yeah, so you guys also have a great presence as far as supporting live streaming and podcasting and video creation. I was just talking to somebody who, when they heard I had a guest on from Shure, thought maybe I was out at VidCon because you guys are there.
We are.
And, Podfest and Podcast Movement and so many different events. Talk a little bit about you guys' philosophy as far as relating to the customers and really sharing knowledge that helps people no matter what product they're using.
Well, we usually like to start with providing a solution as opposed to just cranking out products for the sake of cranking products out. And that's what I really respect the most and what I enjoy the most about my job. So when I go in and I give presentations, I'm often coming in just giving education and solving problems for people, and then saying, oh, by the way, we make these great products that'll make your life easier. So we always approach our product design and engineering from that standpoint. How can we make something better? How can we make something new? And so, it makes my job a lot easier, definitely.
Yeah. So for people who are just getting started live streaming or podcasting and they're looking for their first mic, what would you recommend as far as setting up their setup, for live streaming or podcasting?
Well, so there's a couple of different ways you can go. And the first thing you want to determine is, are you going to be in one spot all the time, or do you want to have the flexibility to be on the go? Because we have this great line of microphones called Motiv, MOTIV, and I have them all sitting here so I can kind of do a little show and tell. But if you're going to be sitting in one spot, it's a good idea to get a decent condenser mic or a dynamic mic like this, the SM7B. But for just starting out and getting up and running and maybe not spending a little bit more than you're ready to, we make something like this, which is our MV51. And this is what's called a large diaphragm condenser, which is just basically a fancy way of saying it's going to be a sensitive mic that picks up a lot of the details of your voice. And you have some really great control right on the front of the mic. You can change up presets. You can use an app to control it, or you can do it on the front of the device. And then it also has some great audio out capabilities on the back here through a headphone jack, and then your micro USB, which lets you plug directly into your phone or into your computer. So this is a really great mic to just sit on your desktop and start doing your streaming, doing your podcasting, whatever you want to do. And it sounds fantastic. So that's one of probably the easiest way to dive right into it, I'd say, is the MV51.
Okay. And then for people who have moved a little further on, maybe they have a little bit bigger budget, or they're ready to get into having a mixer or an audio interface, what would you recommend is the next step for live streamers or podcasters?
Well, I've heard a lot of kind of conflicting views on this. I mean, a lot of people say that they are just diehards about their SM58. This is a beta 58, but you
Mhm.
may be familiar with this guy. This is one of our more popular SKUs. And this microphone's incredible. So if you already have one of these in your toolkit, you can use this if you use your MVi, which you have in front of you. So you can hold
Right.
that one up if you want.
Okay.
Which, there you go. That lets you plug in a microphone directly to the back and then run USB into whichever device you want. But if you're ready to go up a level and start using an interface, you can do something like this, which is the SM7B. And I'm using that going into my Apollo Twin by Universal Audio.
Oh, wow. That's a very good interface.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It helps to know people in the biz, but I
Right.
told myself I needed to up my game after hitting a certain age milestone, and I did. So I spoiled myself.
Right. Right. Oh, I mean, this is a terrific portable, interface. And actually, what I love about it is how good the quality of the audio is going into a phone, even with different issues that you can have with phones.
Mhm.
It's really good.
Yeah, and it's powered by the phone. So I think a lot of people, when they see this mic or that interface, they think, oh, it must need a battery, but it doesn't. It's just drawing its power directly from your device. So that's what makes it so flexible. And you can also provide phantom power with the MVI as well. So if you do have a condenser mic already in your possession, you can also use the MVI to power that. So it's really flexible if you've already got mics, or if you just really like the form factor of having that handheld as opposed to something that would kind of sit in a stand or on
Right.
a
Right.
desktop.
And the SM58 is known as sort of the classic on-stage mic. A lot of singers use it. You see it in when you go speak different places. It's often the mic that's up on the podium or
Right.
at your seat or whatever. What do you account for that popularity for the SM58?
A couple of different things. One, it's extremely durable. We have tons of videos online of people thoroughly abusing the mic and then plugging it back in and having it still pass audio. So it's known for its durability, and it just sounds great on a number of different voices. It's a dynamic microphone with a cardioid pickup pattern. This one has a super cardioid pickup pattern. Now we're getting a little geeky here, but
Right.
essentially it's going to pick you up and not the rest of the band, because a cardioid pattern picks up like this around the mic. You don't get that sound bleed from the rear of the mic. That's why.
Cool. And then it's good as a handheld mic as far as you can use it for if you do interviews on the
Yeah.
road. It's pretty much an all-purpose mic. You could use it as your primary mic even from a studio and put it on a boom arm or a stand, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so then let's talk about the SM7B. Obviously, I think very highly of it. But tell us what you think makes this mic so special for podcasting, for broadcasting. It's very big in the radio industry. Seems to be getting even bigger now than it was when I worked in radio. Talk about why this mic is one that people just seem to revere.
Well, there's a number of different reasons. And it's a dynamic microphone, which, as you said when we were talking before the show, you've been in broadcast forever and in radio forever. And you've come across this mic and pretty much nothing else. As a dynamic microphone, though, in the studio, that's a little bit unusual from a typical standpoint. A use case standpoint would typically call for a condenser mic in a studio environment since it's more controlled. But because when this came out, it has such a natural and warm reproduction of the voice, it just became became the go-to mic and became very popular. It has a much richer sound than some, and it's rock solid. So you know that when you buy it, it's going to be around with you forever, sound great, and reproduce similarly on a multitude of voices. So people love it for broadcast, love it for podcasts, and then use it in the studio. I mean, Michael Jackson
Right.
recorded Thriller on it. That's kind of its claim to fame. But here we are 30 years later, and it's still a really popular mic.
It's a little more than that, but
I know.
can you believe it?
Pretend.
What's one of the reasons why dynamic mics and this mic being one of them that's so popular, I think in radio, is because when you're doing talk, you often will have guests within the studio, so you don't get that bleed over, and you might be shuffling papers and somebody brings you in. So even though you're in a studio, it isn't exactly like being in a recording booth for voiceovers or something,
Right.
in that mode. So it's just a wonderful sounding mic, and it's just really flexible in terms of the different ways you can use it, but different voices that it sounds good on. What are some other products or resources that Shure has besides microphones that you might say people should take a look at, who are doing anything from video to podcasting to live streaming?
Well, we do make headphones.
Yeah.
I noticed that. But we make headphones and earphones. And earphones is just kind of a fancier way of saying earbuds, but they're a lot more than an earbud because they come with sound isolating sleeves, which are made from memory foam. So they fit really comfortably and they go into your ear like an earplug would, and they block out all of your ambient noise. So it gives you a really true isolated experience so that your listening experience is enhanced without having to have big over ears or using any sort of noise cancellation. It's just using physics. So great sounding earphones, headphones, and then this guy, which is still a microphone, but this is that one.
This
This is
the
our latest and greatest.
MV 88 Plus mobile video kit.
Yes.
And talk about why this is so great for mobile live streaming.
So this is great for a number of ways, or for a number of reasons. But one, the first thing for live streaming is that it's RF immune, meaning you don't have to put it into airplane mode to start streaming. You're not going to have any sort of artifacts. You don't have to worry about. I mean, I'd put it into airplane mode anyway, just so that I'm not getting phone calls and texts. But you don't have to. So it's really nice if you're in the field, you can use your network as opposed to depending on Wi-Fi to go live. It has an audio out. So you can monitor in real time, which is really nice. Just throw a pair of headphones on and make sure everything's sounding great. And then the real hero of this kit, because it comes with everything you see here, except my phone, of course. You can use the app to control the mic. So I can change the pickup pattern. And this is getting kind of geeky, but it's so cool. So you can go from a stereo to a monocardioid to a mono bidirectional. And this is really handy when you're podcasting. For example, if you wanted to grab a quick interview in the field, you could put it in mono bidirectional. It disables this front mic and turns on the two stereo mics. So you can see here so that I'm here and you're there. So it's like having two microphones, and you can just switch it up in the shoe mount that it comes with like this. Hit record. And now I'm here, you're there. So you can do a lot of different things. Capture field recording, switch it up, do an interview with yourself, if you're going to do a quick vlog, and then switch it up into bidirectional and have it all within one kit that folds up into this cool little sleeve.
So you do that all within the app and you change the different patterns. What is the use case for mono versus stereo? Why should someone choose to record in one versus the other?
Well, the stereo, when you open it up stereo, you're able to capture the ambient sound of the space that you're in. So it's just giving you that stereo image, which reproduces the natural sound of the room or the space. So there's no advantage as far as recording your interview in mono or stereo, because mono is what you're naturally going to go with. But having that stereo capability is nice for really capturing the true sound of where you are.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it really did pick up the background ambient noise nicely while still picking up the speaker. Usually I use like a handheld dynamic mic when I go to events and I'm doing interviews, but I used the previous generation of that, the MV 88, right? And I use this at Podfest Expo when I talked to you, and it really sounded great in the interviews once I found the right pattern to put it on. Right.
There is that bit of a learning curve, but when you get the mics, what I like is that when you plug it into your device, it prompts you to download the app. So we have an audio version and a video version. So if you're out there vlogging or creating YouTube videos, you can have that option as well. So it prompts you to download it, and then it gives you a little walkthrough of the app so that you're not just flying blind, which I really like. And we have some great videos on Shure.com too, and on our YouTube channel that walk you through the different polar patterns and how to change them.
And so when you put it in bidirectional, it's then becomes a side address mic for both
sides.
But otherwise you're speaking into the front of it if you're doing it as a like cardioid pattern.
Right.
So that it's you guys really thought of almost every angle, every use case for mobile live streaming and mobile, video creation as well.
Yeah, it's nice. It's a good tool to have in the box. And because you can control it with the app, you can take it out. A lot of people use it if they're in a band, if they want to record their rehearsals or they want to record their shows. They can be really loud and overwhelm the natural mic on your phone. So you can put it into something called loud mode, which is one of the presets in the app. And it just drops everything and lets you capture that show so that you can share it, you can live stream it, and people aren't going to hear just a distorted mess of audio. They're going to actually hear your band and be able to enjoy it. So it's been really fun to watch that application as well.
How about wireless solutions for people who might be either doing mobile live streaming or might be doing live streaming with a camera in a remote situation? Are there options for people to do that?
Well, yeah, we make a full range of wireless. And so it kind of depends on your application. If you're using something that you want to be like a standalone clip-on wireless, that's a little bit of a different application. But we do make something like this, which is our VP83F, which is made for use with digital SLR cameras and goes right into your shoe mount and can actually record onto a micro SD card that lives within this, independent of your camera. So you can use it as a redundant audio capture source and then also take this off of the camera and use it as an interview mic just as it is standalone. So, but there are wireless options as well. We make entry level all the way up through very high tier professional level wireless.
Oh, okay. Will you have any wireless with you at podcast movement?
I think we'll probably bring a few offerings.
Check some of those out.
Yes.
So what else is coming up for Shure in the in the next few months? Definitely podcast movement.
Yes.
You guys will be at.
Yes, we're at VidCon right now. I'm not, but we are. And then podcast movement. I'm trying to think of what else. We're doing Lollapalooza this year, doing a cool content creation kind of plan there, which I'm really excited about. And of course, CES and NAMM in January, which we're already thinking about.
Right.
So lots of different ways to find us, but you can always look at Shure.com. We have an updated events list so you can find out where we're going to be. And I'll be at the Sound Girls Expo this weekend in Orlando, Florida at Full Sail University. I'm really excited about
Orlando for what, the 17th time this year, right?
Yeah, and I'll be back there next month too. Just where you want to be in August is Orlando. Yes.
Well, thanks so much for joining us. I love Shure products, and people can check out also livestreamuniverse.com/resources. I have some brief reviews and write-ups on some of the different products that we talked about today, and also Shure.com. Go ahead and pick yourself up something from Shure. They're fantastic. They're always well made, and they always sound good. Thank you, Laura. It's great talking to you.
Thank you, Ross. I appreciate it.
That is Laura Davidson from Shure, one of our favorite companies, the makers of this microphone and many other products that we love. And feel free to DM me or reach out to me if you have any questions about anything we talked about today on this show. And let's move right along. Brian Wallace is a good friend of mine, somebody I've known for quite a while. He's a master of the infographic. He is the founder and president of NowSourcing. And Brian is also a terrific speaker, somebody who speaks regularly at South by Southwest, Social Media Week, Lima. He was there with me just recently, and he runs the award-winning infographic agency, focuses on not only creating great infographics, but also campaigns where he gets people great media attention. Every single day, Brian, it seems like today we were featured here. Today I was featured there. Either you're writing something and it's getting published in the media, or one of your clients' campaigns is being featured. how do you do it?
Yeah, well, thanks for the wonderful intro, Ross. I'm also going to share this over to my feed. Hopefully a few of our fans can join in on the fun. And yes, you're not exaggerating. It does seem like basically every other day that we are in the media or our clients are in the media. If I actually showed the world how many times a day we're actually in the media for everybody, they probably would think I'm lying. So the question is, how do you do it? I think that a lot of people are kind of social media experts or one-trick ponies, and everybody tries like one little vertical, and that's it. And then the vertical goes out of business. You know, we're on a live streaming show. Can you count on one hand or both hands or 5 hands how many live streaming places have just completely gone out of business, or they retool or whatever? So the internet is just filled with wreckage of all sorts of things that are sort of failed experiments. So I think the thing that has kept us successful and relevant, it's not just me, it's a whole team that has kept us relevant over the years, is staying up on all this stuff. We do our research. We're futurists. We're always looking for different kinds of opportunities. And our delivery vehicle, which hasn't changed much in the last decade, which is a weird thing to say in today's shiny new thing, ADD, unfocused world, it just, what we do works. And it's because everybody truly needs what we do, because there's just too much distraction out there. And as you said, it's infographics, but I don't usually lead with the fact that we do infographics, because there's so many do-it-yourself sorts of things out there that aren't really that impressive, that aren't going to get you the level of success that you're looking for with that. So with an infographic campaign, which is truly an end-to-end sort of scenario, first, we listen to the client, imagine that. And then we know that the client is stuck in their not objective mind, in their 4 walls, in their safe incremental steps. And that's not going to be good enough to get it out there to the masses. Clients are usually very bad at telling their story. They're usually either too meek or too salesy. Either way, kind of sucks. So we don't really want to appreciate that. So we're going to translate their message to the world by giving the media the kinds of things that they're looking for. Like you said, we're in the media all the time, and we ourselves are credentialed journalists. So we know what everybody's looking for. So we can go backwards in that and translate that to what a client wants, to go backwards again to what the media wants. Then we bother to go ahead and put together a very well-researched blueprint. But as I'm sure you would agree, people make emotional decisions. I want that shiny new thing, and then I'll justify it by searching in Google all the different things that will justify my position. So people cherry pick whatever news and studies suit them, and a lot of that kind of stuff can be manufactured. So we're putting something that is really leading with that emotion and backed up by the facts and stats. We then illustrate things really well. So over the years, we've redesigned Captain Crunch. We have done our own fonts. We've done photo shoots, whatever it's going to take to make a truly impressive looking graphic, as opposed to here's another wall of words, here's somebody speaking, here's some video, here's some picture, whatever. We're going to intentionally make something really, really good that's going to take a while by people who really know what they're doing, but it's well worth it to stand out among the pack of internet garbage that floods our brain day and night.
So what makes a really good infographic? Because there was a time, particularly on Pinterest, where it seemed like every company had an infographic and were pushing them out. And it eventually just became, like you were saying, it became a lot of noise.
Yeah.
And then, you know, probably 90% of them have not made an infographic now in 2 or 3 years. But you're still having, you know, tremendous success with infographics. So what should somebody look for if they're either choosing a company to do it or they're going to do it themselves? What actually makes for a good infographic?
So absolutely. So quick history lesson. We've been making infographics for over a decade. So we've done thousands of them professionally for some of the biggest names in the world and everything in between.
Right.
So when we started, there were a handful of places in the world that were doing it. And I jumped from social media broad to infographics specific because I didn't think that the world was really ready for just a professionally done thing. Like, I would say that we helped legitimize this as an industry as opposed to like just a bunch of crazy one-offs. But then everybody got word of it, and then everybody thought they could do it. You ever see the movie Forrest Gump?
I did.
Remember when they're like the only shrimp boat, and then right after the whole flood and everybody gets knocked out. So I feel like there was definitely maybe 2012 through 2015 is really when things got crazy and everybody thought they could do one. The problem was you can call yourself an expert in anything. It's the internet, right? We can put together a graphic of Abraham Lincoln that says never trust the internet, right? You can put whatever kind of nonsense you want. It's called the internet. A lot of people don't fact check. A lot of stuff's manufactured. And if everybody knew all the stuff that was happening behind the scenes, they probably wouldn't go to bed at night. So we're going to keep this a nice fancy show and not do any of that. So yeah, like there were just no barriers to entry. So people were making terrible infographics. So they were obvious sales pitches. They had no research. They had no emotion. They had typos all over it. You would go to the bottom of the piece and it would say sources and there would be nothing. How do you even verify the data? Or would just say sources, Wikipedia. Wikipedia, really? Like anything that I could just randomly change for 5 minutes before it gets edited out? So no quality control, no errors and omissions, no fact checking like any other news organization. So a true infographic should be info journalism, where it can, if it's politics, it should be nonpartisan. If it's a hot button issue, either side should be able to take quality information off of it and make their argument. So people did not take it seriously as a responsibility. They just used it as a cheap, quick trick advertising model thing where all the marketers come in and ruin everything. So I feel like after a lot of people got knocked out, we doubled down. We got more serious about our rigorous standards. We got more serious about the people that we hire for design and research and getting the word out. So we don't take shortcuts. And the world of PR and the world of SEO and the world of getting links and getting press, it's kind of nauseating, right? A lot of times you'll see people that they'll say that they're featured in something, but if you dig into it, it's quite possible that they're bribing a journalist and giving them money, which is against terms of service. They are, who even knows? They're doing like a press release, and press releases get flushed down the toilet. They don't count. If you ever look at how press releases are measured, they're measured in impressions. What are impressions, Ross? That may or may not have been seen on a website. What kind of nonsense is this? What is this, like 20 years ago? I mean, it's absurd what kinds of garbage people get away with. So we doubled down on making this end to end. So with us, we're part research institute, part design firm, part public relations, and part SEO, all focused around a common project. So we're able to do things that a lot of people, they don't really want to roll up their sleeves and do the work. And sometimes things go nuts. We had a basketball player get a $64 million contract. Somebody recently was in over 130 or 150 publications, and they just got acquired by GoDaddy. So crazy stuff can happen when you really do this stuff right.
Now, how much of that is from the infographic and how much is from other things like SEO, outreach, perhaps the journalists? What's the kind of the formula, if there is one?
So the formula is that what we do is better than the sum of its parts. So the infographic, with all the research and emotion and the great idea, is the delivery vehicle for the press. So Bloomberg, probably 2-3 months ago, they came out with a study and they said that there's about 6 or 7 PR professionals for every journalist. So if you've ever been a journalist, half of your email inbox looks like this. Stupid subject line, 5 paragraphs of nonsense, and then how would you like to interview our not famous CEO? So if that's what you do as a PR professional, you are bankrupt. I don't mean morally. I mean, I'm not making judgments here, but I'm talking about from a content perspective. You're bankrupt. Why does the press need to go work that hard in their overtaxed brains where they already have all these deadlines and all these pitches coming at them? I get pitched all the time because I write for sites. And you know what I do with all of them? Delete, 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 unsubscribe, delete, delete. Maybe one like every 3 years catches my attention because the subject matter is good enough. So imagine we're the cavalry and we're coming to the aid of both sides. We're saying, hey, don't be a salesy, annoying client. Hey, don't be an overworked journalist. Here, journalist, here's this beautiful thing that will probably get you 3 times the page views because it's interesting looking, and you can write all about it. So we've got a compendium of knowledge that fits in a nice, tidy package. That's really the magic.
We're talking with Brian Wallace on Livestream Deals. Brian is the founder and president of NowSourcing, which is an award-winning infographic agency. You can find out about all our guests and their products by going to livestreamdeals.com, or just go straight to nowsourcing.com and check them out. He's got some great examples, wonderful portfolio up on the website. And you made a point that sort of is how journalism has changed
Yes.
in the last 10 years, 20 years, ever since data of clicks and impressions and things like that have come along. No longer is it sort of using the standard of what seems most newsworthy or important, what's of most interest, and is there a local tie-in? Those used to be sort of the journalists'
Right.
three measures of what to give priority to. Now you can't help but, if you're in that business and every click and impression can lead to an extra advertising dollar that keeps you in business, it's no longer about what's newsworthy. It's about what will get people to click. And
Right.
that changed journalism, or what used to be called journalism, completely. But I assume that's good for somebody who is able to create eye-catching graphics that combine emotion, but also are in factual as well. Because if it wasn't factual, they can't run it as easily. So that's kind of where your sweet spot is, right?
Exactly. We have a tremendous onus to the world to produce things that are factually accurate, that we're not just being paid to produce nonsense that's one-sided. So we are doing a lot of the journalists' heavy lifting and guarding them from the client's overrun of greed to just sell, sell, sell. It just doesn't work. And I think anybody in today's age can be truly irresistible to the media. You know that from when we were at Social Media Week Lima, that's what I spoke about there. I think that anyone, regardless of infographics, I think everybody has a story to tell. And the age of the personal brand is only arriving. So at places like where we are streaming across everything, and I would say more specifically on LinkedIn, we all have the opportunity every moment to really finally craft who we are and show the world the personal brand. So what I always like to say to people is, I can't stand it when I go to a website, I go to the about page, there's no pictures of anybody, I don't know what anybody stands for, and it's just like, oh, our engineers have 100 years of combined service, blah, blah, blah. So what is it? I mean, are you humans at the end of the day? What do you stand for? And I'm not talking about like divisive politic nonsense, but I'm saying a company and its founders should have beliefs, and they should be transformed to express what that company believes in, what their employees believe in. If you're going to apply for the place, you want to apply to the place because you think that they stand for something good. And I think that we do great work that helps inform the world of better choices. And I think that's a big deal. And communicating that firmly inside your company and standing for it externally so that everybody follows you along is an incredible thing. So I could start another business tomorrow and people just like who I am, what I stand for, and they would follow. The whole theory of the 1,000 true fans speaks very true to that.
Do you think that an infographic is something that everybody should consider as a format, whether you're, a recent college grad who's looking for your first job, or you're a solopreneur trying to land an extra client or two? Do you think everybody from sort of the small business to the giant corporations can benefit from using an infographic as part of their marketing strategy?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that if you actually look at a lot of the data, when they survey different marketers, the numbers for infographics continue to rise. It continues to be one of the highest ranked formats of getting press and attention and all the goodies that we want in this world. So let's break out all three of those personas that you just said. So let's talk about the college grad. The college grad, for some reason, was failed by a system that never taught this grad to do anything that was publicly facing to build that persona. So as they're clicking away on Snapchat and Instagram, not maligning these platforms, but if you're going to make disappearing content, an HR manager can't find it. So that's kind of useless. But to craft one's position out there on a place like LinkedIn, especially since there's things like being campus editors at different colleges and the ability to really put together a great profile, being clear about what you want to do, and making great content that's original, that can resonate with people, I have friends that they literally got jobs. I had a friend, Akosua, you can look her up and we can put it in the links later. And she has all sorts of news stories about this. She had a post that went viral talking about her bold journey. And she got congratulated by the CEOs of both Microsoft and LinkedIn and got not just, ready, not just an internship at Microsoft, but got a full-time position recently. It's crazy, right? So you all have the ability to do this. So that's persona number one. And don't count on your career counselors necessarily doing that. You should start. And if your teachers aren't teaching you that, maybe you have something to teach the teachers. So let's talk about the, sorry.
Let me bring in a question real
Please.
quick. Brian, Anita Sonia asked, Brian, do you think that journalism now is opinion journalism, not really giving news or facts when things happen? And she follows up by saying that's obviously what she thinks. Just real quick on where journalism is on the scale of facts and opinion and the blurring of the lines.
So let me try to summarize about 3 hours of thoughts that are in my head there. I think that news is a spectrum, and there are people who have put this up as different graphics before. So there are things that are extremely to the left, to the center, which I don't think almost exists anymore, and to the right. So you basically have two polar opposites that are yelling at each other, and then a whole bunch of other people that are spouting their opinions. I think for you to truly be knowledgeable of the news, it's very important to watch where you get your news from and consider to get things, even if it's about the same story from multiple sources, because you would be blown away if you just watch things, and just politics is one thing, across the political spectrum, because everything becomes politicized and it's kind of absurd. So right. I think there's a mix of legit news houses, but yes, I think a lot of things are going to opinion, and that's not necessarily a good thing. I think journalism is a profession for a reason, and you're not just automatically a journalist if you write a bunch of words and you publish it on your own blog. So it's a very delicate balance. I think it's very important for people to be well-informed and really dig deep and look at the sources behind the sources. Sometimes if you actually watch the trail, it could just be from some PDF that one company just commissioned and it's all one-sided. It's kind of crazy. I would take a look at a website called Priceonomics and look up the history of how breakfast is the most important meal of the day, which was invented by breakfast cereal, for more opinions about opinion journalism, which became fact over the decades. So, right. Yeah.
I mean, I think, some of the, for instance, the news channel label their opinion programming. I mean, it's fine if you have a slant, as long as you're working off real facts, right? But if you don't label opinion, or that used to be the big separation, and that maybe it wasn't as big as we'd like to pretend it was, but that used to be more of a separation than it is these days. Brian, you're going to join us on the post show. We'll do a lot more Q&A with you, cover these topics in a little more depth. So hang around. Brian Wallace from NowSourcing. Look forward to talking to you again at 8 p.m. Eastern at the top of the hour.
Sounds great, man. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Check out NowSourcing.com. Also, Livestream Deals.com for more information on all the products and services that we feature. And let's move on to our next guest. Morgan Schwanke is the head of business development for Restream.io, easy for me to say, product that we're actually using right now to go to several different platforms. We're using Restream to go to Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, and that means Twitter, Twitch, and Mixer. Morgan, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate having you on the show.
Of course. Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about Restream as a company, and then we'll get into specifics about actually restreaming your content.
Sure. So as a company, we've been around since 2015, and our mission is to help content creators and organizations grow, engage, and monetize their audience across all the live streaming platforms. So how we do that is we're the most popular way for content creators and organizations to stream live to more than 30 different platforms simultaneously. So we support all the major platforms like Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, Periscope, Mixer, and we also support more than 30 other platforms globally. Beyond multi-streaming, we also have an ecosystem of tools that help drive engagement and monetization. So, for example, we have a chat aggregation tool that aggregates all the incoming chats across these different platforms into one console. So you can easily see who they're coming from, which platform, and respond. We have an analytics tool, which aggregates analytics in terms of views, reach, engagement, chatters. We have a monitor tool, so you can monitor the health of your streams across the different platforms. We have a scheduler tool, so you can actually schedule pre-recorded video content to go live. We have all these tools that help drive engagement and monetization across these different platforms. So that's like a bit about Restream.
What do you think is the differentiator for Restream? Because there's obviously other choices out there. What do you think makes Restream really a popular choice right now?
Yeah, I would say we've kind of been like first to market. I would say starting in 2015. So we've built up this vast community of streamers, and we have now 1.6 million content creators in our community using our product, and they're all helping each other and posting on forums, creating videos. So I think that's like a great aspect of using Restream is, you're going to have a community of other Restreamers that you can lean on. Also, we're just hands down the most reliable solution out there. I think there's a lot of companies that say that they can handle multi-streaming, they can handle your bandwidth, but the reality is you might have frame drops or fragmentation or issues with their streams. We have a very reliable solution, and that's because we've spent the last several years building this infrastructure that can support our entire community, all the bandwidth, and a really global streaming solution.
That's great. What are some tips for people who are new to restreaming, or even people who've been doing it for a while, for streaming out to multiple channels that perhaps they hadn't have thought of, some things they might not have thought of doing?
Well, I think I mentioned the scheduler tool. I think that's really interesting. If I know live streaming as a whole is quite spontaneous, is a great way to engage with your community, your audience. But if you have like a pre-recorded video, a highlight reel, an interview that you want to actually edit and then schedule to go live, what's really interesting about that is that your audience is going to get pinged as if it's a live stream, as opposed to if you're just uploading a VOD, you're not going to get that same type of notification. So I think using the scheduler feature is really interesting. A lot of particularly streamers that are starting to think about their streaming as a business, organizations, they want to have a high-end video go live, we can do that using scheduler. I keep harping on, I harp on these tools to use because they're just so great. We've built these tools basically because our streamer community, after we built this great multi-streaming tools, asked us to build these other ones. So the chat aggregation is fantastic because it's crazy to have all your chats open at the same time. Like, why not just use one console? And same with analytics. Why not just have it all in one place? So that's kind of our mission, is to build these tools that help make it really easy for you to just manage everything in one hub.
Yeah, I mean, it's phenomenal to be able to get all the comments in one place, because that's really what I think holds a lot of people back from multi-channel streaming, is the fear that they won't be able to engage people where they're watching. If they're only used to going to one platform, it's pretty easy. You follow that one chat with 4 chats, 5 chats, 6 chats that could be going on at once. Without that Restream chat feature, I think it's almost impossible to keep up with that kind of thing, unless you've got like a studio with 5 monitors, or a team bringing you questions and comments.
Right.
When it comes to live streaming, talk show, this type of content that we're doing here versus, say, gaming content.
Right. Yeah.
Are there any amongst the 30 or so platforms that I'm not going to that I should look into? Are there any sort of hidden gems out there that are looking for talk show content?
Are you going live on LinkedIn?
Not yet. I'm waiting to get approved. Yeah, I'm waiting to get that.
We just added support for LinkedIn, obviously, or they've been kind of quiet about rolling this out, but I think it was in February or March they announced that they'll be rolling out their LinkedIn Live platform starting in beta, and there's a application process to go through if you do want to stream live on LinkedIn. It's very simple, but and if you're using Restream, you can just contact me if you want to get your application approved, because we're working directly with their company to support clients. So yeah,
Put that yes column then.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'll do that. So I would say LinkedIn is a really interesting platform that I think is probably, in my opinion, has the most opportunity for growth in the remainder of this year going into next year, for talk shows or for professional streaming or interviews. It's a place where you can build a professional presence, and you already have connections on there, and those people will get pinged when you go live. So it's a fantastic way to engage with that audience.
I want to talk about a couple of things that I think Restream can help with that have kind of been discussed a lot in the live streaming community. One is let's stay on LinkedIn. And for some people, doing the production and so forth it has been a bit of a stretch. They just want to get on and go live on LinkedIn from their webcam. They don't really want to use an encoder or connect with another platform. Now, you guys have a webcam option. So even if so let's say I just wanted to jump on with the webcam. I didn't want to set up a show or anything like that. And I wasn't interested in multi-platform streaming. I could still use Restream as my connection. Is that correct?
Sure. Yeah, for just one platform, you're saying?
Right. I'm saying I could just go from webcam through Restream without any other software or streaming to any other channel, right?
Yep. So we have this feature called Go Live, which it will basically charge up or start up any cam that you have, including your computer cam, your webcam on your laptop or computer. So when you log into Restream, you'll see the option of streaming from a particular encoder destination or screen capture solution, and then also the Go Live feature. And if you click Go Live, it will ask for permission to access your webcam, and then you can just go live straight from there. You can go live to one platform. You can go live to as many as you want.
And the other question I had is for mobile. Can you go live from mobile with that?
Yep, you can. Yeah, so you just go to restream.io on your phone, and then again go live and give permission to access your phone's cam, and you'll go live from your phone's cam.
And so that becomes a workaround for YouTube Live, right? Because YouTube has now said you can only go live from their mobile app if you have 1,000 subscribers or more.
Right.
But they don't stop you from using an encoder or third-party software. So essentially, Restream would then serve like your encoder or as your encoder.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right.
So those are a couple cool things that, in addition to the multi-channel streaming, is your ability to easily get on to platforms that might not be that easy to get on otherwise.
Right. That's right. Yep.
Talk about, for those who may be gamers, talk about, you guys have a big following within the gaming community as well.
Yep. Yeah, so most game streamers are using screen capture solutions like OBS or XSplit, and using overlay or donation tools like Streamlabs or Stream Elements, and then they're using Restream to go live on multiple platforms. And so they'll easily set up OBS and XSplit to point at Restream, and then they'll go live on platforms primarily like Twitch and YouTube and Facebook, as well as Mixer. And I would say that's generally how consumer gamer streamers are using our products. But we also work with a lot of large game publishers and esports organizations. And what we're finding that's really interesting is that those companies are going live to some platforms that you might not have known have live streaming platform presence. Like Steam has a live streaming platform, so that's where you can purchase and download games. And so those companies are going live there. And then also the platforms in Asia and Eastern Europe. So in China, there's Bilibili, Douya, and Huya that are very popular. And in Eastern Europe, there's VK and Good Games, which are like the Facebook and Twitch equivalent in Eastern Europe. And so one of the reasons that large companies are kind of focusing on those platforms is because of kind of the great firewall in China makes it very hard to watch Twitch and YouTube content. And so these other platforms are gaining traction in those markets as a result.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Eileen Smith, who had been watching on YouTube, has jumped over to Facebook and asked, is there any possibility that Instagram will open up their API this year?
So Instagram will probably not potentially ever open up an API. But that being said, we are working, our team is working, and we are also working with the Instagram team to build a solution that would make it possible to stream to Instagram using Restream. And there's a possibility that product may come out this year.
What any other big news that you see coming down the pike, or any other changes to the live streaming landscape that you think might be coming along this year?
Sure. Well, I'll speak to a few Restream updates and then just overall industry updates. So we are launching a monetization platform that will provide the opportunity for streamers to be able to make money off of brand or game publisher sponsored content. So what that might look like is if you're like a game streamer, you can actually get paid for playing the games of game publishers that are launching soon. And if you're a just maybe an IRL streamer, professional streamer, you could get paid for mentioning brand or product or providing reviews on certain products. So that's something that we will actually be launching later this month that we're really excited about. And just in the overall landscape, I think I would say that very excited about LinkedIn Live, continuing to see Asia as a market really, and the platforms there continue to grow, which is really exciting. And I would say that third, like now live streaming, I think, is starting to become just overall a part of everyone's social media strategy. 2 years ago, even a year ago, I don't think that was necessarily the case. But if you're serious about social media, which is pretty much every big company, every big tech company, and so many other people, then live streaming is now becoming a part of that social media strategy.
You mentioned earlier about the scheduler where you can upload, or you can schedule uploaded video or recorded video rather than live video, but run it as though it is live, in the sense that people get the notifications. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Maybe how some live streamers are using it, or how some companies are using it?
Yeah. So I'll speak to like a game publisher, or like a company might upload like a pre-recorded set of interviews, and then they'll have like highlight reel type content in between. So that's like one way we've seen it being done. Or if you want to, I mean, we see people using it as like prior to going live, they'll upload a video, and there will be like maybe a countdown clock, or after a stream, they'll have a video scheduled to go live that kind of provides information for the community. So those are kind of a few ways, but generally speaking, it's if you have if you have a video and you want it, it's pre-recorded, it's edited, then you can schedule it to go live, and we can using our tool, you can schedule pretty large videos to do so, to go live. Yeah.
So you don't see much of a downside in doing it then? I mean, it's just another chance to put your message in front of people.
I think the not necessarily a downside, but it's a different type of engagement experience, obviously, because if you're going live and someone asks a question, you're not going to be able to kind of adjust your live stream experience based on the question, or take a dialogue in a certain direction based on audience engagement. That's not to say you can't still engage with the audience. Once it goes live, you can get on our chat and certainly engage with the audience through chat. But you won't obviously be able to change the dynamics of the stream itself, because it's scheduled pre-recorded content.
Wow. So a lot of exciting things going on with Restream. You can learn more about restream.io by going to restream.io. You can also go to livestreamdeals.com. Restream's featured at the top of the page, along with the products and services from our other guests. You can click and it'll go right through. You can sign up. It's free to get started as long as you're not going to a Facebook page. Is that correct? Or a few of the different premium spaces? Talk about how people can get
Sure.
started.
So free to get going, stream to 30 plus destinations. And if you want some premium functionality, for example, if you want to stream to like multiple pages on a particular platform, if you want to unlock analytics, you want to unlock scheduler capability, other premium features, you can upgrade. And we have 4 different paid plans. So we have standard $19 per month. We have Pro, which is $49 per month. We have Premium, which is $99, and we have Business, which is $199.
And is LinkedIn included in all the plans, or is that a standard plan?
Yeah, so you can stream to your personal LinkedIn page, but if you want to stream to a company page, you'll need to upgrade. It's the same with Facebook. You can stream to a personal Facebook page for free, but if you want to upgrade, if you want to stream to a company or a profile, then you'll need to upgrade.
Wow. And one thing I saw that was kind of interesting, maybe a few weeks ago, I saw ABC News going to LinkedIn using Restream.
Yeah. We've got a lot of big companies out there using our product, and it's certainly exciting to see these big companies using it. So we're thrilled about it.
Well, it's great to meet you and chat with you, Morgan Schwanke from Restream.io. He's the head of business development, and definitely some good things coming, but it's already a great product, and I've recently started using it and love it. We're using it for this broadcast. Thanks so much for coming on, Morgan. I really appreciate it, and look forward to all these exciting developments coming this year.
Thanks so much for having me.
Cool. Great talking to you, Morgan. That is, again, from Morgan Schwanke from Restream.io. And you can go to livestreamdeals.com and click on through, get your free trial. It's really a solid product. And it was great learning even about some things that I wasn't aware of that you could do with Restream.io. So that's exciting. We also talked with Brian Wallace earlier of NowSourcing, and he talked about infographics and media and journalism, and Brian's going to be joining us again for the post show. We're going to stay on for a little while. Also, of course, thank you to Laura Davidson from Shure, makers of the SM7B and other great products. And I've recently, maybe a little more than, maybe a little further back, maybe it's been a few months, joined became part of the Amazon influencer program. And you can actually find some of the Shure products over there as well. Amazon.com/shop/iRossBrand, like the Twitter account at iRossBrand, Amazon.com/shop/iRossBrand. So you can find some of the Shure products we talked about over there. And again, appreciate everybody for joining us. Brian Wallace is coming back in just a second. Thank you, Eileen Smith. Let's bring Brian back in as we move over to the post show. Welcome back, Brian.
Hey. Been too long, Ross. How you been?
Yeah. I think a lot of people were excited about the conversation, and I'm going to give out the link here, and bear with me one second.
You got it.
The link for people if they want to jump in and actually join the conversation. Let me put that into the Restream chat. And so it should go out to all the different destinations. You can click that link and come on into the studio, and we can bring you up. You can see the link here. It should be in your Facebook chat, your YouTube chat, and perhaps on the other platforms as well. Most people watching on Facebook and YouTube. So a lot of people were interested in your thoughts, when it comes to what's going on with journalism and media. Tachi had a question earlier that we didn't get to. She said, what role do you think citizen journalism plays in the current news landscape?
A big one. I think that the advent of Twitter over the last 12 or 13 years has completely changed the game for real-time news. Because let's say there's a war or a natural disaster or something going on that's unexpected. How in the heck, for the biggest news organizations in the world, how could you have a correspondent there in time to catch it? By the time they're there, it's over, right? I mean, I remember like when they were finding Osama bin Laden, like there was some guy in Pakistan like live tweeting the whole thing and whatnot. It's crazy. So what I like about Twitter, and it's interesting we're talking about Twitter because Twitter was down today and everybody flipped out. But when YouTube is down and Facebook is down and this is down and down is down, people don't seem to mind as much. And the reality of Twitter, even though it might not be the biggest one out there, it's a completely different form of media. It is in itself real-time news and in its essence, citizen journalism. So for people who actually still do remain on Twitter, we're not going to get into politics and all that crap. It's not that kind of show, people. Just chill out. I know it's Facebook and we're supposed to like argue all day, but you're not going to get an ounce out of me on that. What I am saying though, regardless of partisanship, that's where people hang out. And that's where you will find a tremendous amount of journalists because they know that they can get the breaking news, leading edge, behind the scenes with everybody. That's why you'll see a lot of journalists will also have open direct messages, right? So it's a major impact of citizen journalism. And you also have sites like medium.com and things like that, where people will put all sorts of different things as well. It's not just Twitter, but I went on a Twitter rant there. Like
and so building relationships with people on Twitter has got to be a big priority if you're trying to get into traditional media or even online media.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, like I said before, for everybody who missed, there's an element to becoming known. So you don't just walk up one day and you're a columnist at Forbes or something. You have to start somewhere. You can, before you jump into big media, start on small media. If you have your own website and you have a blog, I mean, I remember, I've been blogging for probably 15 years. And I remember when we had some very specific stories that just went crazy. And that's how more people heard about us. And as you get more of those hits and the world notices you for your 15 minutes of fame, you don't have 15 minutes of fame. You'll notice that you'll see the same kinds of marketers and the same kinds of journalists and the same kinds of celebrities and influencers and whatever we want to call these people that get their unfair share of all the media. People want to quote them on the ready as opposed to other people who might even be more talented than those people that are just getting shafted, right? It's pretty crazy.
It is. When you look at the landscape of Twitter, it's interesting that a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago, 2 years ago now, it seemed like Twitter was everybody's first priority when it came to marketing. Now it's no longer the first priority of the influencers and people like that who are doing all these different in all these different areas. It's now very much focused on breaking news, journalists and political opinion, sports, any live event. It's really sort of it's almost like becoming a niche platform for a few different industries rather than being the place where everybody's building their personal brand and promoting their business.
Yeah, I would say another big piece, though, is also customer service. So most people know that before they even pick up the phone or go to the website or email them, they're going to jump straight onto Twitter. And there's massive Twitter accounts that help people on a daily basis when it comes to the customer experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So talk about a little bit, we didn't get into it too much, but Tobias Harris was a free agent in the NBA. We know NBA free agents can make a nice living. And your campaign helped him land a $64 million contract a couple of years ago, right?
Yes, sir.
How did you do that? And how did you get in touch? How did he reach out to you, or his agency reach out to you? Can you tell us a little how it came together?
So there was a reach out, but I think the thing that's really important there is understanding how the seed of an idea can explode and make incredible results. Because lots of people can talk a good game and they say, wow, I was featured in Forbes. I was featured in Entrepreneur. It's like, I'm featured in Entrepreneur like every few days or something. I remember a few months ago, we were there twice in the same day. So it's not that hard to get into all these places. And if Entrepreneur, if you're listening, we love you. Okay, yes, kisses. And yeah. So, but back to this. So for anybody who really saw the start of sabermetrics and data science melded into the world of sports, that's pretty fascinating. So for those of you who have missed this, and hopefully a lot of you have seen it already, I would suggest that you either read the book or see the movie Moneyball. You know, you've probably seen it before, Ross, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I actually haven't seen the movie or read the book, but I was looking at the Bill James abstract back in the 80s. So I'm familiar with the whole sabermetric concept and how the standard way of measuring sports, like points per game or rebounds per game, doesn't tell the whole story. You need to break it down by per possession and what your contribution is, and
it's even
what the team is doing in their differential while you're on. I mean, I'm not an expert in the basketball stats, but I think I know a thing or two about what they're doing, and it really is remarkable how the stats, like, oh yeah, he was the first guy to average 20 points and 10 assists. Well, how many? He played 48 minutes a game, and he took 50 shots to get those 20 points. So that's why his team loses every game.
Right. Well, it's pretty fascinating, Ross, how even before you break it down to the individual and their respective stats in whatever sport we're talking about, sports were a lot uglier of a measure before you even break it down like that. Because before you think about it, right? Before you have somebody that plays, pick whatever sport you like, soccer, baseball, football, golf, I don't know. Well, golf's a little different, but team sports, right? So if we're talking about baseball, which is where it all started with the Boston Red Sox. Now we're New Yorkers, so, you know, we'll try to behave ourselves here. Right. But so we've got the Red Sox. The Red Sox, since the curse of Babe Ruth in like the 20s or something, didn't win a World Series for decades. They were just horrible. But then all of a sudden they won, 4 World Series in a short order? Crazy. So something is wrong with that equation. Here's how it used to be. You used to have a scout or scouts, and they would go all over the country and all over the globe and into high schools and colleges and all these places, and they would hear about some legendary hitter, pitcher, whatever, and they would go and they would watch the games, and they would look and they'd see, and the person would stand there and he'd have a great stance and he'd be ready to pitch the ball, all awesome looking and all of that. Visual aids are good. Right. And if they looked the part, and this goes for anything, right? Like, I think it was like Warren G. Harding or something like that, that there was somebody, he was like a governor, and the scout in politics is like, wow, that guy looks like a president. But then he was like a sucky president. So there's a lot of people and circumstances that people look the part, and people don't think enough about how it actually works. So you'd have all these scouts, and if a baseball player held it and looked like a slugger, even if he had so-so numbers, people would just bring him on into the system. And if you were a great-looking pitcher and your mechanics looked good, you'd been brought right into the system. But if you held the ball funny, even if you were probably pretty good, you would get passed over. Right, then the data scientists came in with all this sabermetric stuff. And it's like, it's not just about the way the person's holding the bat and holding the ball and doing all these things and all the motions, but it's about run production as all of the team goes and measures with all of themselves against other people in the league. So they started playing like war game scenarios and crazy stuff like that with all this nerd science stuff. And like I said, the Red Sox just started winning like crazy. So then you would have a data science department for everybody. And then it jumped into all the sports. But basketball was really slow. So we noticed that that was an opportunity. So we introduced the basketball world into sabermetrics. And we said, hey, case in point, check out Tobias. Look at his numbers. He should be right up there at the top of the league. Made a whole emotional appeal. And we said, hey, where do you think he should go next? And all sorts of sports stations picked it up. Twitter was going crazy. You would go into all sorts of basketball forums and everybody was talking about it. And everybody's like, wait a minute, how is this even happening? And before everybody really even thought about it, the guy before his 23rd birthday had a $64 million deal. That's
Not
pretty
bad.
good.
Not bad at all. And and it's also, what's interesting is understanding the statistics and their tie to winning, because that obviously it's not just the tie to runs scored or tied to RBIs and things like that don't really measure that much of how good your contribution is to the team. Because of course, you play on a really good team, you get on base a lot, you can score a lot of runs, but that isn't everything. It's certainly a better way to look at it than was looked at it by just judging batting average and RBIs. But now they use this metric in baseball called WAR, wins above replacement. Right. And basically they measure players by, if you took the average guy who's sort of like between AAA and the majors, you took this average mythical replacement that you would bring up, how much better is your player if you measured him against that? Now, obviously, there's a lot that goes into the numbers and all that, but it's a fascinating way to measure what somebody's contributions are in number of wins. Basically, how many more wins do you get with this player versus your average replacement? They call them quadruple A player, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because it's greater than the sum of its parts. It's not just the individual and how they work. It's run production and how they all fit into a puzzle, into win scenarios, like you're accurately putting it. Yeah.
So what were some things that you put on the infographic that went beyond what would be expected? Points per game, age, height, weight, all the typical rebounds, steals, things like that, assists.
Yeah, so it's not a basketball card, right? So it's not just the stats. I think the key thing that really got everybody excited was thinking about basketball differently, because it's not an advertisement for him. It's an advertisement on a paradigm shift within a sport that people were barely thinking about. So I think the name of the game there, just like what you were saying is the baseball analogy, was something called the player efficiency rating, which is how people measure it in the basketball world. So when you look at him, so he was, I have it in front of me right now. He was as good as all the big players in the league, where he basically had, I think he was like the elite, like 4 of his position, right? So all these other people were super well known and they were already more established and they were already louder. So when you're 22, you're still kind of finding your stride. You're not necessarily like the loudest, the team captain. You're still kind of finding your fit. It isn't just about numbers. But here we showed it just from a straight up position like that. We talked about a couple other things that were in there were high quality 3 points, percentage of jump shot, attempts taken when open. We did a whole section about defense. So it just really was very interesting how the data came alive and told a story just completely differently, right? Rewriting the book about how people think about a sport is super interesting. Oh, and you've got it up on the screen. Awesome.
Yeah. So there's one, you did these groupings, which is very interesting, where you grouped them with LeBron James and Kevin Durant, in one statistical area, in another one, Millsap and Green. So you're grouping him in with really high quality players, and then you end with the big question: where will he go next? Which is essentially like, you want to sign this guy soon, right?
Exactly.
And Philadelphia signed them, and they've had great success the last few years.
Absolutely. And we made the point also to say, hey, look, he's 22 years old already. And there was a stat we found that, or I'm trying to remember how we came up with the stat, but on the piece, you'll see where it says most NBA players continually improve until they reach their 25th birthday. So we're saying, look, he's 22. He just was at his 4th season. He's already proved himself. So he's not even hitting his prime yet. So that's a really good deal.
Right. Let's get back to earned media and journalists. Talk about why it's so important to be recognized by either traditional media or online media versus just pushing your own content out on your own channels.
Right. So a lot of times people say to me, so when we're doing all the promotion of an infographic campaign, so you're going to put it up on our social media, right? I'm like, wait, like we get paid to like do a little more than post something on your Twitter account that has 200 followers or whatever, right? Like anybody could do that. So I think the name of the game, so I said it one way before about being known, but let's say it another way. And you heard me speak about this when we were in Ohio. So it's all about becoming a known and safe entity for the media. So if you're a giant Fortune 500, you make very small, calculated, incremental steps. You don't go crazy and burn the whole place down and rebuild it from the ashes. That usually doesn't work. Once in a while it happens. There's a wonderful book by Jim Collins called Good to Great, where he actually goes through some companies that to remain enduring, they had to make crazy things. The history of Walgreens, for instance, they must have closed half of their stores to move them 5 blocks over to better corners. And it used to be like a burger joint and they threw out the menu. And like the guy, like the 3rd generation Walgreen who had like a burger named after him, he's like, yup, we're going to close up half these shops and we're going to light all the restaurants on fire. And they're like, what are you, crazy? He's like, no, I want to make this an enduring place. And it is to this day. Look at where every Walgreens is in your neighborhood. This stream is not sponsored by Walgreens, but look at anywhere in your neighborhood. You'll always notice it's at a ridiculous high traffic area. It's got a great parking lot. And it's open 24 hours a day. And they're making money. And they beat out almost every other place that's like them in the world. I mean, yeah, you've got CVS, but there's like 20 others that died, right?
Right.
So being a known and safe entity is something that reporters and journalists need. So if somebody wants a call for speakers or quotes or whatever, and they want to know something about live streaming, so they're going to start Googling and looking at news searches and all this stuff. So once you're out there, Ross, right, and you get quoted in one place and you get quoted in a second place, eventually that's how it's going to work. So whatever it is you do, if you're a social media marketer, great. Get out there and be a known entity. You want to be a keynote speaker? Awesome. Corporate America, all these big conferences, they want to know that you're a safe, trusted source that isn't going to flake on them, that isn't going to show up and choke, that is actually going to show up, set up for 3 and get it, just like our good old basketball stuff we were saying.
And that's why, even though there are how many thousands and tens of thousands of lawyers or detectives or doctors in the country, every time there seems to be a legal issue in the news or a criminal issue in the news or a health scare, you always see the same 3 or 4 people show up.
You sure do, right? So let's make a little social experiment, analogy, mind's eye sort of a thing.
Okay.
So imagine that we're about to race in the Ironman, some kind of marathon, New York Marathon, Boston Marathon, whatever, whichever, like just close your eyes and imagine that there's this marathon that's going to happen. So you and I, we got our little chest sticker thing and we're number whatever. Yep. I'm not exactly ready for a marathon, but whatever. Just,
right.
social experiment in our mind. Just bear with me, man. Just come on. Give me a sec. Okay. So you and me and 50,000 other people.
My car and drive to the finish line.
You're killing my punchline, dude.
Go.
Wait. So hold on. Don't ruin it. Wait, we're almost there. So check it out. So yeah. So let's say there's 50,000 people in this race and they're getting ready to race. So who ever explained the rules of the race? So you have a bunch of people who just put babies that are crawling in diapers. You have a few people who have wheelchairs or something, or walkers. Then you have some people that are walking. Then you have some people that are running. And Smart Ross and me get our Tesla that's at the starting line. And we're just like, I don't know what these dummies are doing, but we're going to press the ludicrous speed button and we're going to be going 60 miles an hour in a minute. We're going to show up and we're going to have breakfast and lunch before all the other dummies are coming to the actual finish line. So I don't even understand some people. So they think that if they just stand there and wait in line and they're going to be experts, that somehow everybody's going to find them. That's not how the world works. There's tons of talented people in the world. So what do you do in a world where everybody's talented? You have to do something to stand out. And when everybody is just sitting there being boring and playing by whatever rules, I'm not saying to be like a crazy person or a hacker or cheat. I'm not invoking fraud. I'm saying being interesting enough. Like all this garbage you see on social media, right? You've been broadcasting for like an hour and 47 minutes. That's freaking hard, right? To remain relevant and interesting, to have people tune in for stuff is hard work. So to have everybody else jump in for like a minute and like, hi, yay, motivation, I just thought of nothing. It's like, dude, who cares? To make garbage content, garbage in, garbage out, it's not that interesting. Why should people pay attention to you? If you can make incredible, enduring content and really make a name for yourself, you will start to spread to your 100 and your 1,000 true fans and really get noticed. Look at a guy like Seth Godin, super famous marketer, great keynote speaker, really knows how to break things down for an audience with actionable information, and has written numerous best-selling books. He doesn't even bother with social media. He's like, Facebook, no. Twitter, forget it. The only thing that he posts on Twitter are automatic posts that go out when his blog post goes out. And you know what he says? You know what? And Tish is still watching. There you go. So proving it. So right on, Tish. Awesome. So you know what he says about all his blog posts? For every genius that's like, everybody thinks like they have all these amazing ideas. For this guy who's like one of the arguably best content writers on the internet, and it has been for decades, he says, for every blog post you're going to see, I take 20 and I throw it in the freaking garbage that you're never going to see. So this is saying one of the elite masters of content in the social world, and is a in-demand keynote speaker and book writer, is saying at best, he's 1 for 20. What makes all these people think they can make a video and then they're going to slice and dice it for 6 months of garbage content? Give me a break. It started crap and it just keeps descending in crap value. Nobody's that interesting. I don't even think I'm that interesting, and people like talking to me.
Just keep repurposing it.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Just keep recycling that. Keep recycling to your paper and your plates and stuff. It's not made for content.
So who's doing it well then? Like besides Seth Godin, who's somebody maybe not on that level, but you see their approach, maybe somebody within our sort of peer group, somebody, a company, a person that you think is got the right approach?
Sure. Let's jump to LinkedIn because we haven't covered that enough.
Sure.
I think that there are several voices there that are fantastic, and then lots of people that just lurk and sit in the background, and then a lot of copycats. So yeah, I mean, I think that, I don't know, there's tons of people I don't like. And in a platform where you have 630 million people, you might have only hundreds or thousands of people that are actually really good, really interesting. Gosh, all right, let's pick a few. So Michaela Alexis, one of my favorites. I think she's got just the right brand of content that's super interesting to watch, very visual, leads with a lot of heart and emotion. She's kind of journaled her success along the way, from going from like totally being unknown and working a job she didn't want to being the president of the place, and now being like a keynote speaker and going all over the place. She's really interesting. Judy Fox is really great. She does a lot of fundamentals of video strategy. Tim Salau is really interesting. That's S-A-L-A-U. He does a lot of really interesting stuff. He just started his own company and he's doing all this cool stuff for WeWork, and he's constantly talking about the future of work. He and a guy who works at Amazon called John Marty, the two of them were doing a lot of like really interesting video series stuff where it was all about like, how do you get a job as a non-technical person in tech companies?
Right.
So I thought that was really cool. Gosh, I could keep going. I don't know, like what can I tell you there?
Well, let me ask you, what would you like to see on? I think I'm echoing through your browser.
I'm echoing through the browser?
I'm echoing through yours. Well, not anymore. Whatever you did, it stopped.
This is down. Okay.
What I wanted to ask you is, what would you like to see on LinkedIn Live? Because we know there's content of different value out there. But what's something, after our conversation tonight, I may have a chance to get LinkedIn Live.
Yep.
What kind of stuff should I think about doing? Because I'm thinking maybe doing something different for LinkedIn rather than just giving, say, a show like this another platform, but doing something exclusively on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Maybe
So,
not. I don't know. But I
great question. It's a very fair question, Ross. So just for everybody's knowledge, FYI, so I am a LinkedIn beta tester. According to estimates, which I've actually asked LinkedIn directly, there's probably somewhere between 500 to 1,000 people at this point out of the 630 million that are part of the beta. We have a very specific rule set that we have to follow: what to stream about, what not to stream about, how long to stream, how often to stream. So there's a lot of things that can actually get you kicked out of the program. There is a form to sign up, but understand that just because you sign up for a form doesn't mean you're going to get it. They're looking for specific fundamentals. I think they're looking for a lot of consistency. I, for one, am not a huge fan of just automatically taking the same content and automatically streaming it to everything. And thank you, Tish. That was very nice of you to say that. So I think that if I'm going to post something on Facebook Live, I think it's probably going to be a little different than what I would do for LinkedIn Live. And I think it would also be a little different for YouTube. But hey, let's face it, a lot of times I will get lazy and I'll just cross post it. But I don't like to put stuff up that I myself don't think is interesting. So there's tons of stuff that you guys don't see that I totally junk behind the scenes, or I take it in its unfinished state and I just have notes all over my phone, all over my desktop, all over everywhere, and they just don't see the light of day, or they're just unfinished thoughts. I fail all over the place. I have tons of projects that I'm proud that I have failed and failed fast, and there's nothing wrong with that. But to do a LinkedIn live stream, I think what I would like to see, to answer your direct question, is some better consistency. I think a lot of people are a little haphazard or they're uninteresting. So sometimes I will interview people. I think that's been really successful. You actually were sitting there when I was doing one with Judy Fox, who we were just talking about. And we talked about some really heavy content. We talked about the mind's ability to be practically resilient after major traumatic events. People don't want to really trend there. And it doesn't mean that you have to bare your soul. I think that you just have to be a cut above the content that you would usually do, because you have the privilege to sit there at the cutting edge of a beta of a platform. And the world is listening. I get all sorts of compliments from people all over the world about it. So I will tell you, a lot of times, like, I don't have like a series of notes here. So I can stream of consciousness go, I can burn at least some time talking about anything. But when it's only me and the spotlight's on me, and you'll see it, I actually have made a decision every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern. As long as I think that makes sense, I'm going to just make that a regular slot. I even wrote it at the top of my About section on my LinkedIn profile. I feel like people don't know when to watch you, and there's no way to schedule it because it's still beta. And the creators themselves don't really know what to talk about. So I've kind of picked different thoughts to talk about. So the last one I did was traveling while you're on the road and tips about that. I've talked about how to be interesting in the media. I've talked about giving, and I will continue to talk about things that I think are very high impact and practical tips to a very broad base of people. Okay, I think that that's super important. I listen to lots of experts. I take what they say in, I synthesize it in my mind, and then I say something different. Not to purposely be contrarian, but because I have things to share over my life experience and all sorts of working with some of the world's largest companies. People rely on me and my team to come up with all sorts of creative brilliance all the time. So when I'm putting together the framework of my live stream show, I'll actually have, for a good 45-minute stream of content where I'll variate that based on some of the comments that are coming in, I'll actually have up on my screen usually a good 10 waypoints. So if I don't have 10 main points that I want to talk about, I know it will be a failed show, because it will be all over the place and it won't have kind of a natural cadence. So I'm not just, when you see me talking, I'm not free-forming it. I do have some things in front of me. I'm not reading it verbatim, but I just have some notes. And I do this on the podcast too. The podcast, I'll put about 2 or 3 points because it's only 15 minutes. But I feel like for a 45-minute-ish chunk of content, having those 10 main points really seems like a good thing. And I see Judy Fox in the background. Hey. Awesome.
So what do you think are the benefits of live, besides, we know, like a business audience and all that, but what do you find the reaction is to your content on LinkedIn versus going live, say, on Facebook or another platform?
Sure. So I barely go live anywhere anymore. There was a period when Facebook Live first came out and I really wanted to just be a practice speaker. I think I was probably going live literally every business day for 6 months or more. And it was hard to consistently come up with that amount of stuff. Usually I kept them pretty short. I think LinkedIn could actually win the live stream game because while a lot of the other live streams could be quite casual. Okay, well, let me caveat, I would say the gaming world kind of has its own side thing over there. But in terms of business conversation stuff, I think LinkedIn can completely take everybody's lunch money on that. LinkedIn is the place for business. It's a much higher demographic, psychographic of audience. It's not just your random drunk cousin. It's CEOs and 4,500 businesses and all of that, where we don't just endlessly argue about politics and nonsense. And I'm going to unfriend you if you don't think like me, right? So the LinkedIn environment and community has really become a wonderful place of acceptance, of positivity, uplifting wonderful ideas about how to run things properly in the workplace, that you don't just have to be a type A maniac person, but to lead with vulnerability and heart, and just all the beautiful creators that I see on there. Yeah, I think it's the perfect place for live streaming, and live streaming to be taken seriously.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for sticking around for the post show. This has been a lot of fun. Thanks to Tish and Anita and Tachi and Eileen and Beauty Bubble and everybody who stayed around for a good part of the show. We've been on a long time and we appreciate it. And everybody I didn't get to, we really do love the support. If you haven't shared this out, please do share it out. And if you have already, there's no harm in sharing it out again, but once is plenty. But I will be back next week with Brand on Broadcasting. We have a great guest lineup set for that. So see you again and us another time, but we will see you again next week, 7 p.m. Eastern, Thursday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, Thursday night. Take care, everybody. Have a great night.
Thanks, guys.